Okay, all right. We now have a quorum, so we'll get started. Approval of the agenda. We have a motion to approve as presented.
Move to approve.
Okay, and second. Been moved and approved and seconded to approve. All those in favor say aye. Excuse me. Opposed, motion carries. Approval of the TAC minutes of April of 28th.
Move to approve.
Have a second. Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries 5-0. Director's report, Chad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the Technical Advisory Committee. We have few reports
Here
to present to you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. We have few reports to report to you. Staff has a few identified in the director's report. Peter has like 4 reports, I think, followed by Kim has a couple of reports and Marky another couple. So let me request Peter to start with TIP project status. Thank you, Peter.
Good morning, TAC committee members. We'll go through our regular bi-monthly TIP project statuses. So per our TIP policy, the bi-monthly progress reports for projects programmed to receive WAMPO suballocated federal funding in the current FFI or that have received in the past FFI but are not finished. These are all those projects. Go through those, and per our convention, I'll go through the ones that are set to let this year. We have the 53rd Street Oliver to Woodlawn multi-use path, and this is on packet page 10. The 53rd Street Oliver to Woodlawn multi-use path that is anticipated to let in September of this year. The Douglas Seneca to Meridian project by Wichita is anticipated to let in August of this year. Wichita's 17th Street North I-135 to Hillside project anticipate to let in June of this year. Valley Center Seneca Street multi-use path anticipated to let in September. We have Butler County Southwest Butler Road improvements from Southwest 170th Street to Southwest 155th Street is set to let in October of this year. We have Wichita Intelligent Transportation Systems ITS project anticipated to let in early fall. And finally, we have Wichita's Redbud Multi-Use Path Project, Phase 1, that is anticipated to let in September of this year. This is also available as a page in your packet. Page 11, you can see these mapped across the WAMPO region. And as is our convention, we also provide a summary table of the projects that have WAMPO suballocated funding that were referenced in the last TIP amendment, and that is on package page 10. Any questions on the bi-monthly TIP updates?
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter.
Next, we have the household travel survey, our consultant RFP development. So a request for proposals is being drafted by staff in accordance with the 2025 Unified Planning Work Program, or UPWP. We are looking for a consultant to conduct a survey wherein households are a target of about 2,000 households to complete responses will be asked to report details on all trips made by all household members over the period of 1 or more days. Example, origin, destination, departure time, arrival time, mode of travel, trip purposes, possibly aided by smartphone applications that use GPS. This is something MPOs do typically on a regular 10-year cycle. The last household travel survey was completed in 2011 with a special note. The last WAMPO household travel survey was delayed to avoid the short-term impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are now trying to get back on that cycle again. So the survey will provide up-to-date input data critical to the WAMPO travel demand model, which, of course, as you know, forecasts future traffic volumes and congestion on the regional transportation network. Any questions on the household travel survey? It's a very large project that will occur over the course of about 3 years. To specifically mention the costs over those 3 years, approximately $1.5 million total.
Thank you, Peter. No questions. Looks like,
Thank you.
Next item.
And then I'd just like to give notice that the TIP Amendment 5 public comment period will be from June 27th running to July 11th. And give an update on the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, MTP 2050 update. So as you know, on May 13th, TPP approved MTP 2050 ahead of the June 2025 deadline to do so, as MTPs must be adopted at least once every 5 years. USDOT has provided new guidance on the contents of MTPs and other documents, which we'll talk about later. And our state and federal partners and ourselves, we are all working to comply with that. So our tentative schedule for MTP amendment to comply with the new guidance is that for our July 8 TPP meeting, we're going to request for them to open that amendment for public comment period. That's consistent with our public participation plan. So it'll be a 15-day public comment period that will run through July. On July 28 TAC, we'll ask for your recommendation on that new amendment to comply with that guidance, and TPP will vote on that amendment on August 12th. So, and then after that first amendment, we will have our MTP 2050, our last public engagement, round 5, introducing the new plan to the public.
Thank you.
And then our update on the automatic bicycle and pedestrian counter contracts. So some background, last year in August 2024, we purchased 10 automatic multimodal counters. We have typically framed this in the bicycle pedestrian realm because that was the initial push to look for this kind of technology. However, the counters are actually capable of counting traffic and turn movements as well. At that time, Wichita, Hayesville, and Sedgwick County agreed to help assist us with the 20% non-federal match portion of that cost. At this time, we're developing formal interlocal agreements for sharing the counters. The match portion and permission to deploy in their jurisdiction are also the interlocal agreements are for the match portion, sharing the counters, and also permission to deploy the counters within the jurisdiction boundaries. These are all underway. We have 1 completed and 2 are pending. Once those are done, and our hope is we want to start testing and doing field deployments this summer.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And Kim has a couple of reports as well. Thank you.
Yes. Good morning, TAC members and partners. As Peter mentioned, we do have the counters out and we've been testing them. It's been a really good process. They seem to be pretty easy to use. So looking forward to getting those out and tested before our official annual bicycle and pedestrian count kicks off. We have those dates reserved for September 10th, 11th, and 13th. And as you know, every year we coordinate this annual count across about approximately 35 locations across the region. So pretty wide net of locations. We will be working with you to seek volunteers to assist with the count. We have, again, the dates. September 10th and 11th will be from 10 a.m. to noon and 5 to 7 p.m. And then on Saturday, September 13th, it's noon to 2 p.m. This count data is utilized by WAMPO. It's utilized by a lot of the jurisdictions, nonprofits, and other entities. So very excited to continue this process. We are working on improving the volunteer sign up to make it easier for everyone. And we will be sending out a nice flyer that you can then share and on your social media and through your contacts. So that will be coming up. We do plan also to test out and use the counters this year for the bike ped count. We'll have people also counting at those locations just to ensure that we're getting good data. In addition, we are excited to partner with KDOT once again to release the behavioral safety grants. This project, as you remember, you might recall, we initiated last year with KDOT. They had approximately $50,000 to award for behavioral safety grants. This year, we're not sure on the exact amount, but probably similar amounts. The applications need to address the concerns of our ICT Safe Coalition, the Drive to Zero Coalition, and WAMPO's Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, and the Kansas Strategic Highway Safety Plan, or other highway safety plans. We're really looking for the behavioral side. These are not infrastructure grants. These are looking to really help improve the behaviors of everyone who utilizes our infrastructure, from motorists to pedestrians, bicyclists, and scooters, everybody. So the KDOT will administer these grants. Again, we will just be helping with the process. The suggested range for these grants are approximately 1,000 to 30,000 per grant application. And we expect this to be released maybe towards the late summer, early fall this year. So KDOT just asked that I give you a heads up that it's on your radar so that you can start thinking of some innovative behavioral projects. If you have any questions or ideas you would like to share with us, please feel free to do so. And hopefully at the next meeting, we'll be able to give you a date for this proposal. Any questions on? Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think we have a couple more reports from Marky. Marky Jonas is our WAMPO community planner, coordinating agencies like KDOT, FDA, FHWA. Marky.
Thank you. Good morning. I just wanted to give an update about the Federal Transit Administration, or FTA's Enhanced Mobility for Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities, or 5310 program. WAMPO partners with Wichita Transit to facilitate the application and selection process for this opportunity. We had a call for applications from November 15th, 2024 through January 24 of 2025. Submissions were then reviewed and prioritized for award by a selection committee. And those funding awards for projects and programs implemented from July 1st of 2025 through June 30 of 2027 have been announced by Wichita Transit, and that list is available in the packet. And congratulations to all of those who will be receiving funding. And then I also wanted to provide notice of an administrative adjustment to the WAMPO Public Participation Plan. A public participation plan describes an MPO's strategies and techniques to inform the public in transportation planning issues with the goal of maximizing participation and engagement. Our WAMPO PPP was last approved in 2022 and will undergo its next full update in 2027. However, having received updated federal guidance, we conducted a thorough review of the plan and processed an administrative adjustment to ensure that it aligns with new guidance. For this, no changes have been made to any processes or participation techniques. So none of the revisions change the approved intent or content of the document. Just kind of an overview of the changes. We removed references to rescinded executive orders. We made language adjustments to better align with the updated federal guidance. There were a few edits to correct grammar, improve word choice, and perform other editorial changes for clarity, and then just a few adjustments to correct minor inaccuracies. That administrative adjustment has been processed and is available on the WAMPO website at wampo.org/public-participation. Just wanted to provide notice of that. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Okay, next we're going to move into public comment. Is there anybody from the public here or online that would like to address the board? If not, we're going to move on to the Unified Plan Work Amendment 1.
Thank you. I will continue. I'm going to discuss the 2025 Unified Planning Work Program Amendment 1. As a reminder, the Unified Planning Work Program describes the planning activities WAMPO staff and consultants will undertake during the year and how federal planning funds allocated to WAMPO will be used. This serves many purposes, including defining the planning scope, funding, scheduling, coordination, public involvement, and compliance. So this is a very important document and one that we redo every year. However, updates to the 2025 UPWP are necessary to account for removal of tasks that are no longer needed, addition of tasks that are not currently in the UPWP, and to adjust programmed amounts to better align with anticipated work. We held a public comment period for the proposed amendment from June 6th through June 20. No public comments were received. And then funding for the UPWP comes from various sources, including Federal Consolidated Planning Grant or CPG funds, which, as most of our programs do require a 20% local match. And the CPG and local match expenditures in the 2025 Unified Planning Work Program following Amendment 1 would total $2,486,495. Then just kind of a summary of this, and this is also available on page 24 of your packet with more detail, just to give quick overview. The Amendment 1 changes include minor language updates to reflect updated federal guidance and the approval of Metropolitan Transportation Plan 2050 or MTP 2050, the removal of 2 consultant subtasks, which were to hire a consultant for an SS4A implementation grant, which we are not pursuing this year, and the purchase of additional automatic bicycle and pedestrian counters, the funding for which was not needed. And then adjustment of funding for the Regional Transit Implementation Plan consultant task to reflect the invoiced amount before the project completed. We added a subtask to purchase data, funding adjustments between staff tasks to better align with work planned this year. An extension of the timeframe for our Safe Routes to School project, which we will hear a little bit more about today as well. And that is just to match the consultant contract. And then we reduced funding programmed this year for 2 upcoming consultant-supported projects, the Household Travel Surveys and the Regional Active Transportation Plan. These are both projects that are expected to continue past 2025, and the overall funding has not been reduced, just the amount available this year. Before I present your action options, does anyone have any questions for me?
Thank you.
Okay, so the action options are to recommend the TPB approve the 2025 Unified Planning Work Program Amendment 1 as presented, recommend the TPB not approve the 2025 UPWP Amendment 1, or recommend the TPB approve the 2025 UPWP Amendment 1 with specific changes. WAMPO staff recommending the TPB approve the 2025 UPWP Amendment 1 as presented.
Okay. Are there any other any questions, Murky, on this? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I recommend the TPB approve the 2025 UPWP Amendment 1 as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Good, thank you. Motion carries. All right, next item is the core document amendments. Peter?
Good morning. So on April 28, 2025, U.S. Secretary of Transportation addressed a letter to all recipients of U.S. DOT funding, including WAMPO. And we wanted to give some context on that, just on some administrative adjustments and amendments to our documents that you'll be seeing over the next several committee meetings. So as clarified by WAMPO state and federal planning partners, this letter creates new guidance on the contents of all of WAMPO's planning documents. Pertains especially to the interpretation of federal non-discrimination laws, including Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So we are currently working with KDOT, FHWA, and FTA to determine what specific changes need to be made to each planning document to comply with the new guidance. So planning documents will either have amendments or administrative adjustments, depending on the changes made and the requirements of the WAMPO Public Participation Plan. These will be brought to the TAC and TPP in the next coming months. So plans that may be effective. Our Unified Planning Work Program, which we just presented today, includes a regularly scheduled amendments. Recommendation will be presented for TPP vote on 7/8. Our TIP, the next regular scheduled amendment, will be presented for a TAC recommendation on 7/28 with a vote on August 12th. Our Title VI program manual. Any changes with that will be included in the regular schedule amendment or a full update of the document. Our limited English proficiency plan will be included with a regular amendment of the document. Our ITS will be included with this update that we're currently working on, or our ITS architecture. And then our formally adopted planning documents that may be, or sometimes will, in the case of the Metropolitan Transportation Plan 2050, we have that upcoming amendment. We're performing that administrative adjustment on our public participation plan per our director's report, our congestion management process, our comprehensive safety action plan, regional transit implementation plan, and our project evaluation methodology and scoring criteria. Many of these changes can be as simple as a few word changes or deletions. Anything that requires a bit more nuanced or larger changes, of course, will be all apprised to that. And then anything that may require a formal amendment will go through the regular process. But mainly, we just wanted to put this in as you see these documents with administrative adjustments or amendments that come in, and wondering exactly what was the motivation behind this. It's this USDOT guidance.
Okay.
Any questions before we move on to safe routes?
Nope. Let's go ahead.
Good morning once again. Our Safe Routes to Schools initiative is going extremely well. We are so excited to share that we have, with your help, we have reached 51 schools that are participating so far. We're aiming for at least 60. So we still have room for a few more schools in case you know of any in your jurisdiction that would be interested in partnering. We do have the full list of schools on our website. You can go right to wampo.org/ I think SRTS, yes, to find that list in case you're interested to see. And we are going to hear an update now from Chris Brown with SRF, who has been helping guide us through this process. Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Kim. Good morning, everyone. Appreciate the time to provide an update on the Safe Routes to School effort. So we'll jump right in. So today we'll be providing an update on kind of the two main deliverables that we're working towards, as well as some engagement pieces that we're excited to be working through, as well as implementing here at the start of the next school year. So here's a quick agenda, and then on to the next slide. So this is just showing, again, kind of the key pieces of the puzzle here. So we're working through those high priority schools that Kim mentioned. So we're at 51 now across the metropolitan area. Those 51 schools, we are actively doing that inventory piece, that first step there, and the school profile as well. So kind of the existing conditions, that base foundation of information. We are currently organizing that into some high-level report documents that will then lead us into those next steps, as you see there on the right hand of the slide. We also are working through the best practices guide. So I think I mentioned this before to you all, but we're really excited to be providing a living resource here at the end of this contract that can assist school districts of various sizes, cities of various sizes, in either starting a Safe Routes to School program or improving upon the existing one. And so really providing a one-stop shop that is sensitive to the needs and context of the WAMPO area to make safe routes successful long into the future. So there's a bit more information on those two, as I already mentioned. A couple more have already trickled in, as you can see, since these slides have been created in the last couple of weeks. So we're at 51 of 60. And as I mentioned, we're going through the profiles, but really the key piece here is also preparing for that fall outreach. So we do have several pieces of or several avenues that we'll be going down to engage with parents and caregivers, to be collecting student data specifically only related to how they arrived or depart school, to understand that mode split. And then also getting out into the community and actually performing in-person audits to understand, what is going on in that kind of peak 20 minutes of chaos before and after school in that campus area. And how can infrastructure solutions make that safer for everybody that's trying to access the school area? And as I already mentioned, that best practices guide is really just creating kind of some holistic content pieces that'll be delivered in draft form here by the end of the year, into the fall. And here's a map just showing the high priority schools we've received to date. So this was school district led with, agency partners as well. And so we've received those applications and those are mapped here. And as Kim alluded to, we still do have, we are scoped up to 60. So we still do have a few opportunities to add to the map here, but I'm just showing a nice geographic equity here across the region of different schools from elementary up to high school, as well as a few private schools as well. And so kind of the key piece here that I want to update today was that fall engagement preparation. So I'll kind of go through the pieces that I alluded to earlier and add a bit more detail on those next steps. And so right now we are in this preparation piece. So we're really hoping to leverage events as much as possible strategically. So really honing more into either larger school district-wide events or even community fall events or anything else related to more of a broader community community engagement. And so, really looking for anything to offer there of these are the events that we should be at just to make sure that we're providing the adequate coverage. I'd love to hear more about those. We will be sharing some consistent materials, flyer, QR code to the online survey, etc. And so we'll have some consistent printouts and materials to share with partners across the region. And then also, as I already mentioned, doing some surveying and some auditing here in the fall, which we're preparing for. So the caregiver survey, parent caregiver survey, so this will be online. We are, actively, we'll be meeting with our stakeholder group of school districts and agencies here next month. And so I've been actively coordinating with them to understand, the distribution network of back to school emails of parents or newsletter or some other piece of the puzzle there to make sure that we're leveraging those existing resources to access parents and get their feedback. So we'll be collecting a variety of pretty basic data that's consistent with Safe Routes to School nationally. So understanding how students get to school today, how parents feel, with greater support, they may allow their child to walk or bike to school, or their perception of walking and biking to school, all with the aim of obviously, creating a safer and more comfortable environment. So children can, access school by a variety of means. So this is a really key piece, a foundational piece to inform us in that kind of issue identification and opportunity assessment that will then, lead us into development of the various E's, education, and engineering and others to provide that holistic review of each school. So we're looking forward to getting this rolled out here come August and September. The student tallies are another, excuse me, it's a national template. It's a very basic piece of the puzzle, if you will, but it's really important data, especially for tracking, over several years. It's great to see with your investments, how has that hopefully created positive change and broader, modal usage by students of walking, biking, or other means. And so this is simply just hand raising by teachers in the classroom midweek of how students access school in the morning and how they will leave school in the afternoon. And then those audits that I alluded to. So we are, these are really, frankly, one of the most important pieces of the puzzle here is to get out, boots on the ground, see what's going on around the school campuses. So we would be consultant staff from the project team here, WAMPO staff, and also looking for other volunteers in the high priority school areas to join us in the fall as we're doing these, or assist us in conducting them, with your assistance or others through a consistent worksheet template that we're developing. So hoping to make this as easy as possible, but also want to make sure that, we're getting all of the good information that you are able to get when you're out, out there looking around and seeing what's actually going on an average day. So look out for more information for this piece, but we will be conducting those kind of September, October, November timeframe as we're able to get those scheduled. So just kind of running back through, May now into June, we're already in June here. We're still continuing to finalize that list of priority schools. And then we are, click on to the next bullet. Identifying, we're using school champion, school liaison, a person at the school that can just assist with questions, confirmation that, you know, the email went out for the parent caregiver survey, any other, you know, minor needs, just having someone at each school that's available. So there's highlighted in red just because we are continuing to in coordination with Kim and others at WAMPO, you know, do some one-on-one meetings and other communication to try and identify those people. And obviously welcome any thoughts here today too on who those folks could be to continue to support. And we're actively developing those calendars. We've been coordinating with WAMPO staff and trying to find that, you know, that kind of equilibrium of getting as much in-person engagement as we can, but understanding, you know, we can't be at 51 events at the same time. And so trying to, again, focus more on, is there a key school district-wide event? Is there a key community event in the fall that we should focus our efforts on to make sure that we are in the community and engaging accordingly? We'll be providing some training and final preparation with our Safe for Us to School stakeholder group come mid-July here. So there'll be more information there coming out here soon. And then again, you know, it's already closing on the end of June, and obviously the school year starts up in early to mid-August. And so we'll be preparing over the next 6-7 weeks and getting ready to go for all these great opportunities to engage with parents, students, and school staff. Are there any questions I can answer or any other comments?
Yeah, we have one here.
Sure.
Excellent.
I was just curious, and I apologize if you covered it and I missed it, but when you're listing your priority schools, is that something that you're letting the districts determine which schools are priorities? Or are you having some type of discussion on what those criteria should be for a priority school?
Yes, the school districts are the ones that are determining that. And many of you have been helping as well with that. If you know that there's infrastructure improvements that are planned or that are needed. So we appreciate the help. But yeah, we've been mostly leaving it up to the jurisdictional staff and the school staff to identify those schools because you all are the experts and know what's needed. So yes. But again, we have room. So if you have any other schools in mind that aren't part of our plan yet, just let us know and we can reach out to them or would love to partner with you to reach them. Also, for those walk audits in the fall, those are, you know, important to ensure we're looking at the traffic flow and the infrastructure barriers or improvements that may be needed. So we will be inviting you to participate in those walk audits that are with schools within your jurisdiction because you are the experts on infrastructure and improvements. So we would love to have your assistance with that. So we will be developing that calendar and sharing that with you to see where we can help plug you in for your expertise. Any other questions for myself or Chris? Yeah, Paul.
What does the survey contain? Does it ask the student's address so we kind of know how far they're coming to the school? Or, you know, I'm sure you'll have the school boundaries probably as well.
Actually, the schools are providing the data of where the students live. De-identified, of course, so that we can have that information. So it's not actually, Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe we're actually asking their address.
No, so no, the survey would be just anonymous. We'll have some basic demographic questions, but there will not be any locational data collected as a part of the online survey.
Yeah, so the school's providing that. And we've already had some of the school districts give us that information, which is very helpful because, yeah, then you'll be able to tell which area or which direction they're mostly coming from. And Peter has been helping with that.
Specifically, USD 259 gave us the addresses for student locations that WAMPO maintains that, but it's not directly connected with the survey. So I have the addresses of students, but I don't have that connection with the survey if that address is connected to a bike, walk, or bus trip. If that kind of helps.
I think it does. I couldn't really see on the map. I could tell Southeast High was on the map. Of course, that boundaries is huge. There's really not a lot of, it just goes up to 29th and Oliver, I think, as far north. So I think a lot of those students get bused in, and I think they even use Wichita Transit as opposed to, and I couldn't tell if Wichita East was on the map there at Douglas, because I see a lot of folks walking to that school. And that's why I was just kind of curious on how we know where those students are coming from, what might be the barriers, depending on where they live, that could be. So, and I understand privacy issues and stuff. So I'm just trying to weigh that in my mind.
And I keep, oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say on one of our previous meetings, ultimately, the infrastructure improvements we're going to focus around the area around the school. Because I was looking at those locations, and depending on if it's, especially if like it's a magnet school, a lot of times you're getting trips from all parts of Wichita or USD 259. So yeah, to kind of narrow things down, it will be looking at that group of students that's close to that school and looking what we can do around there.
Yep, I was gonna say the same exact thing, Peter's, from a infrastructure and even existing conditions standpoint, we just use a half-mile boundary. It's kind of the industry standard for safe routes to school. So we are pretty close into the school. So each of these are only going to be reviewed within that half-mile radius surrounding each school. So it is a little bit narrower focus, but obviously those are the short trips that we hope to target the most for walking and biking.
Okay. Chad?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chris, for your expertise. Has been great help for us. Just to support Paul's point, could you elaborate also on how these surveys are used in development of the plan, just so we are on one page based on your expertise?
Yeah, if I'm understanding the question correctly, I think, as it pertains to enrollment boundaries, locations, things of that nature, it's always good information to consider and include. But at the end of the day, I think the key piece of the puzzle is really the half-mile boundary, the focus into the immediate school area, and obviously understanding the complexities that be within that area. And so not discounting those further out trips, but just trying to focus efforts into those areas that are most impactful to the Safe Routes to School mission for walking and biking. Does that answer the question? Apologies if I missed the question there.
And some of the questions on the survey that I've looked at so far are, for example, what fears or barriers are parents or caregivers, concerned about? Why would they not let their kiddos walk or bike or roll to school? Trying to get at also some of those, bigger issues also that we might be able to address that are beyond infrastructure. For example, doing some bike safety and even pedestrian education for the kiddos, how to cross the street safely, and that's kind of programming and other things that go beyond also the infrastructure. So.
Yeah, it's easy to focus on the engineering which it typically is, but yeah, their encouragement, education, enforcement, and other pieces are just as important. And so kind of understanding the perception piece, which is done through that survey, is a really, really key component of understanding kind of how can we, through those means, create a more welcoming space from a parent caregiver standpoint to even allow their children to walk or bike to school.
So that feedback will then be put into the plan. So then you will, how the parents and caregivers from this school responded, and that will be then implemented and put into the plan.
Thanks, Chris, for elaborating, and thanks, Kim.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate the time. Thank you.
All right. Regional Active Transportation Plan. Peter.
So I want to give a quick update on the RFP for the Regional Active Transportation Plan. So in accordance with our 2025 Unified Planning Work Program, we released a request for proposals on June 5th for a consultant to complete a Regional Active Transportation Plan. Again, open from June 5th to July 3rd. The goal, advance active transportation for both the region collectively and for WAMPO communities individually by prioritizing safety, access, and connectivity through planning, public engagement, and the identification of specific projects and implementation strategies. So an update on there, we had a pre-proposal conference to answer prospective consultants' questions. That was 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. this past Thursday, June 12th, or more than this past Thursday, at the WAMPO offices and via Teams. We have posted a Q&A online on our Work with WAMPO page. Of course, as we've said earlier, this will build on previous studies and align with recent and ongoing projects, including the Wichita Bicycle Plan, the Kansas Active Transportation Plan, WAMPO Safe Routes to School Plan under development, and a regional complete streets policy. Again, the geographic scope, we're trying to cover all of these communities and jurisdictions, and then look at how these communities are connected, but also interact with each community to develop a projects or planned or future projects for each community within the region. Kind of give a brief overview of our starting point here. This is our current off-road and on-road existing bikeways in 2022. I wanted to put this up here just to kind of illustrate. We're really looking at connections, not only within communities, but between communities within WAMPO. And then something I wanted to touch on that we've seen in other active transportation plan, and I want to specifically mention Chad's previous experience with these active transportation plans. Something that was kind of a hallmark of a successful one was the identification of catalyst projects. So catalyst projects are high impact, visible active transportation initiatives that improve connectivity and safety and potentially spur broader regional investment. And this is best shown with examples. So on this page, you can see the Keeper of the Plains. It's a gathering place, and you can see the two large pedestrian bridges. Again, a largely visible project, something that you could get quite a few people to rally around, and again, potentially spur broader regional investment. Another example, Redbud Trail. It connects several communities, even goes outside the WAMPO region. We put down on the bottom there, you can see Point 9 and Trailside Eatery. In that little thumbnail that you can see for Point 9, they actually, in their logo, put the Redbud Trail on it because it has direct access to it. According to the Eagle article, part of the motivation for that new business was the Redbud Trail being adjacent to it, and they want to integrate their business with the trail. And you can also see the commitment to safety along this trail per the conceptual design of the bicycle pedestrian bridge over Rock Road. But just a couple examples of these kind of large projects. When in this plan, we'd like to try to identify those across the WAMPO region. But in any event, Regional Active Transportation Plan, we'd love to hear from you. If you guys have ideas and stuff, we'll be actively seeking your input at every step of the way. Any questions for me?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Any other business before the board? Well, if that not, then we stand adjourned. Thank you.